Good morning, everybody. It's about 7 a.m. We're in the garden. I'll show you the garden in a minute. We're going to plant some magic nana beans. That's right. These are from my wife's grandmother. These seeds have been in her family for probably close to 100 years at this point, so it's kind of cool. Every year we plant them, we keep the seeds going, we save the seeds for next year, and it's kind of, a family tradition. This is an Appalachian seed that's been in the Blue Ridge Mountains for probably at least 100 years, so pretty neat. And then we're also going to plant some cucumbers and just check out the garden and talk about homesteading, because that's what we do. We're a homestead channel. The magic beans, people. Family tradition. I know I got to do a little bit of weeding. As you can probably notice, and you will soon, got a lot of this landscape fabric this year. I'm really enjoying that because I don't have that many weeds, people. And this soil is really good soil. It's mainly from animal manure, mainly from horses. And I don't have a big garden this year. I mean, I'm probably growing maybe 15 things. Whereas normally, I'm probably growing 30 veggies. But just had to scale back this year, which is fine. Trying to weed as I go here. So here's the garden right now, people. This is probably my smallest garden in 8 years ever since we moved here. Dogs are barking at something, probably a squirrel. But in some ways, this garden is a pretty good garden because if you can notice, I got all this landscape fabric for most of the garden and I don't have a lot of weeds. That's what always gets me, is the weeds. So I got a lot of tomatoes here I need to stake up like very soon. I'm gonna use old tobacco sticks to stake up these plants here. This farm used to be a tobacco farm. The next holler over was tobacco. All in the mountains here in North Carolina, there were hard scrabble farmers trying to make a living growing tobacco. Most times I grow about 30 plants or 30 varieties and things like that. This year I'm probably only growing maybe 15 things. I got a bunch of different types of tomatoes. I got eggplant, sunflowers, maypops, a little bit of zucchini, cucumbers. What else do we got? Onions, garlic, a little bit of kale, some lettuce. There's the last of my lettuce there. And again, it's weedy. I got to do some weeding, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. I can only do what I can do when I can do it. We are in the bee yard, people. This year I got about 12 hives. And yeah, I got to do some weeding in here too. I got to do some weed whacking. My sister and her husband actually are coming to visit the farm. They're only the second family members to come visit the farm. My mom and dad were able to come here when we first bought the farm about 8 years ago. But most of my family lives in St. Louis, so it's a drive to get to North Carolina. So I'm in the bee yard. I'm going to be harvesting some honey as soon as my sister leaves in a week or so. I should get at least, 150 pounds, maybe 200 pounds of honey. This is probably one of the best things I've done for me on my homestead is get into beekeeping. I really have found that I really love it. And it got me to thinking, people, homesteading is not a contest. It is not a competition. You are not in a tournament. You're not trying to be better than another homesteader. You're not trying to be the best homestead YouTuber you can be. You don't need to compare yourself to everybody else, right? I know sometimes when you see these homestead YouTube channels, it looks so easy, and it isn't easy. Homesteading is not easy, people. And I think that's important to keep in mind. It is a lot of work. Sometimes you don't see the bad side of it, right? Of animals dying, of hard work, of feeding animals in the rain, in the snow, in the mud. It is not easy. There's a lot of work involved. So like I said, it got me to thinking, you don't need to do everything, and you don't have to feel like you're not a homesteader if you don't do this, if you don't have chickens, if you're not raising pigs for meat. There's lots of things you can do with homesteading, right? So don't get discouraged that you have to keep up with the Joneses, if that makes sense. A lot of people get into country life and farming, homesteading, to get out of the rat race, but you can very easily get back into another rat race, people. You don't need to just, feel like, oh, I always got to go, go, go. I've been thinking about it, and there's certain things I do on the farm that I only do new homesteading activities and skills if it meets some criteria. So I'm going to share that criteria with you. It's raining. I still need to feed the horses and the pigs and the chickens and the turkeys. So we're going to go feed and talk about what my criteria is for what we do on the homestead and why we do it. Okay, as I'm walking, you should be able to get a glimpse of Smudge here. This is my son's pony. If it starts raining too bad, we'll put him in the barn. But it's in the 80s today, so I mean, it's not like he's wet and cold in the fall or something like that. He has a little shelter. I know it looks pretty junky, because it is, but we are getting him his very own little horse barn probably next Thursday. And like I said, we may put him up in the barn, but he actually likes going underneath that shelter. He was about to walk under it, and then I started talking. So that is Smudge, and our 1-year-old son rides a pony with a special saddle that my wife found that's from Europe. That's right, Europe, people. Smudge. Smudge, there's some hay for you, buddy. Okay, bud? Smudge. There's some hay for you, bud. There you go, buddy. Okay, we're gonna feed the horses here and talk about my criteria for what I do on the homestead. And you know what? Some of it's simple. Here's my 5 criteria that I have to be able to check at least one thing on the box in order to want to do this on our farm. And if you're just joining us, we got about 20 acres in the mountains of North Carolina. Family of 4 here. I'm a full-time school teacher. I teach science, mainly biology and chemistry. So I got a busy life. So that is that's one of my criteria. But the first thing, my first part of my criteria is, does whatever I'm doing make me happy or make someone in my family happy? That's criteria number 1 for anything new I do on the farm. For example, beekeeping. I wasn't even thinking about beekeeping 8 years ago when we moved to the farm. I stumbled upon it. I found some used beekeeping gear about 6 years ago, and I've taken off ever since. So that's my first criteria. Does it make me happy, or does it make someone in my family happy? Here's Izzy. Enjoy that. Corn dog. Wyatt. Okay, it is time to feed the pigs. So first criteria is, again, Does it make me happy or someone else in my family happy? Second criteria, for me at least, can I learn something valuable? So beekeeping, of course I can learn something valuable. Gardening, of course I can learn something valuable. So I'm a lifelong learner. I know that's cheesy. That's what I tell my students, be a lifelong learner. You don't want to be stagnant. You want to, keep on dreaming. If you're 50 years old, 60 years old, you got no dreams left, what are you doing, people? Life is supposed to be fun. I know there's times when it isn't, and it's hard work, but you should always have a dream no matter what age you are. So I'm always there to learn something. So I want to have fun. I want to learn something. Criteria number 3. Does it make my life better? Very important. Does it make my life better or my family's life? So again, the garden fits that criteria. Beekeeping fits that criteria. Making maple syrup fits that criteria. Having our animals on the homestead fits the criteria. Most of our animals are just pets, actually. We don't raise any meat for the most part, and I'll get into that in another video, why we don't raise meat. Oh no, he's not a real homesteader. Trust me, I am, people. So right, does it make me happy? My family happy? Piggy, piggy, piggy. Can I learn something? Does it improve our lives? Does it make our life better? Criteria number 4, how does it fit into our life already, right? This kind of brings me back to what I was saying before. You can't do everything all at once at the same time. It's really difficult. Sometimes it's overwhelming, and I tell you, yes, sometimes I'm overwhelmed on a weekly basis. I feel like I got to do everything, and I've realized I just can't do everything. So it needs to fit into my life, right? For me, the main thing I do on the farm is beekeeping, but we also got the horses, we got the pigs, chickens, turkeys. I'm doing some stuff in the woods with native plants and with trails. So we're pretty busy. It has to fit into our life. I work as a school teacher. I'm off in the summer and a little bit in the winter, but it has to fit into what I'm already doing, right? So recently I started making maple syrup. That fits perfectly into my lifestyle because most of beekeeping is in the spring, summer, and fall, and it's a little quiet in the wintertime. But that's right when I guess maple syrup making starts. Hey, buddy. Is in the early spring when I'm not doing too much beekeeping yet. So next year I'm hoping to tap about 20 trees. This year I only did 5. So that really fits into my life. The last criteria number 5 for me. Does what I do help the environment, my local environment? And I know, you could argue about things. I care about the environment, and I try to do things that are going to make my little corner of the world a little bit better with, bird houses, toad houses, native plants, elderberry, bat houses. I would really like to get into building, native animal housing, like bat houses and things like that. Also native plants, I'm really interested in learning more. I know a decent amount, but I would like to learn a lot more. So those are my criteria. I don't think you should get into homesteading and just get into another competition, right? Life is not a competition, and some people feel like it is. I don't need to be rich to be happy. My dad always says it's better to be a man of value than a man of riches. But if you can be both, why not? He always says as well. But right, you should stick to your values, enjoy your life. I did not buy a farm with my wife to not enjoy it, right? Sometimes you can get caught and you stop enjoying stuff. And if you're not having fun, people, you're doing something wrong, right, Gertie? If you're not having fun, you're doing something wrong. So I hope this video made sense to you. I just feel sometimes people feel like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to get bigger and better and faster. And that isn't necessarily the case, you know. You got to be happy first, people. So I'm going to feed these pigs because they're hungry, and I got chickens to feed, and my sister will be here with her husband in probably like 2 hours. Pretty excited to see them. First family members on my side of the family we've seen since this pandemic started, so we're very excited. We'll see you soon.